Harm, I gotta be honest, man. I'm like 3, maybe 4 weeks away from just throwing out the quads plan. And I had a quads plan last year and it didn't work out. But I think this year I'm getting closer to going completely unhinged and just throwing out like a trade package to go get both Elias Lindholm and Adam Henrique. And like those are your 2 moves. You got to make those 2 moves. And all of a sudden you've got like a very good team here. And look, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, but I'm like 3 weeks away from throwing that out there.
As rentals? Is that
literally as rentals? You're not going to re-sign either of them. You're just doing it because you want to load up for this run.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so hear me
out. You want to give up a first-round pick for a rental? Like, I get it. On the one hand, you look at the timeline for Demko's contract, Hughes' contract, Miller being at 30. I think he's 30 right now. And this being one of the best seasons you're going to get from that contract. How well everything is clicked. Yes, this is a year I think to add. Absolutely. But and I wouldn't be opposed to rentals if it's, let's say, that second tier. Like Henrique is a rental. I wouldn't mind that. Sure. Right? Yep. But if we're talking about ponying up in a first in a good prospect for Lindholm as a rental, that's too far for me.
So Lindholm is going to be the #1 trade target as we approach the deadline, right? Just looking in years past, like I'm not convinced Lindholm is going to be I don't know. It's 1 year left on the deal.
Look at that Bo Horvat package. Isn't that
exactly? And that's what I'm trying to think if there's was there a better deal, or was Bo Horvat the top trade target last year?
What did Meyer go for again?
Too much, and he's getting paid too much as well. But
although Meyer was an RFA, so not quite the same thing.
Little different, exactly. So like, let's use the Bo Horvat one because that's the one I want to use. Like Bo Horvat, that deal was less than what you would usually give up, like in years past, right? Because like, what's the Canucks equivalent if they make that trade with the Calgary Flames? Like they're going to get Elias Lindholm. Like, what's your equivalent to that?
First,
because Achi no. Like, let's be honest here. Like, you're looking for Achiratu's like a B, A- prospect. Like, he's not an A+ prospect or anything like that. So you're not giving up Tom Willander. You're not giving up Jonathan Lekarmaki. Both guys we have discussed being vital that they hit on ELCs. You're not giving up either of those guys to go get Elias Lindholm. And the Islanders were able to re-sign Bo Horvat. The Canucks aren't going to be doing that with Elias Lindholm. They're probably not re-signing Nikita Zadorov. So this is for a rental. So I'm just looking at it and saying, okay, let's say you can give up the 2025 first round pick is obviously the one that would be more ideal, in my opinion. You want to keep this one because, like you and I have discussed many a times before, you need more first round picks to hit if you're going to be a playoff team for years. So you're not mortgaging the future too hard. You're doing it with your competitive window, and you need to identify when that competitive window is. And Harm, in my opinion, you just laid it out. The Quinn Hughes contract, the Thatcher Demko contract, that ain't that long. So you need to go all in here because you don't want to get to the level of being where, yes, you're in the playoffs, but all of a sudden you're the New York Islanders and you can't do anything in the playoffs and you're just in this level of mediocrity. But at least you're on the right side of mediocrity where you're actually making the playoffs. Sure, you're not where the Canucks were for years under Jim Benning, but how much better is it to get bounced in the first or second round every single year? I don't know, man. I'm just looking at it and saying, this is a year where if you go out and you get Elias Lindholm, like if you add Elias Lindholm to this team, they are significantly better. Like this is a significantly better team if you add Elias Lindholm to it. You have the flexibility of moving JT Miller to the wing. You have the flexibility of putting him with Elias Pettersson and having him play the wing, or having Elias Pettersson play the wing, whatever. You have a better face-off man on the Elias Pettersson line. Maybe that line can start taking matchups, freeing up easier matchups for JT Miller and his line mates. Just acquiring this guy, and I threw it out right before Christmas as this isn't going to happen, but it would be great if it did. Now I'm thinking, and I said I was 3 weeks away. Turns out that's happening today. Now I'm thinking you could put together, like, Harm, tell me if you do this package or not, or if it's a comparable of what the Canucks gave up to get Bo Horvat. you would be giving them a contract because the Canucks took back Anthony Beauvillier. That was part of it, right? You'd be giving them, like, I don't know, Connor Garland, Nikita Zadorov, I don't know, one of those two. Pick whoever you want. You're giving them a contract to make room for Elias Lindholm, right? You are giving them a B+/A- prospect who, like maybe it's even Nils Höglander that Calgary is looking for, right? Let's say you're giving them, just for argument's sake, the package is Connor Garland, Nils Höglander, and the 2025 first round pick. Are you doing that trade to grab Elias Lindholm in like, not even at the deadline, like ahead of the deadline? Like you're getting him for most of the month of February.
No.
Why?
I'm not. Well, also, look at, okay,
10.
You're giving up Garland, right? And obviously Lindholm's a better player than Garland, but is he that much better that I'm also going to give up a first round pick and another piece? Yes. Well, I'll tell you this much. The moment Garland's gone, that third line is falling off cliff.
That's a good point. Maybe
because I'll tell you this. The third line is one of the best third lines in the NHL right now. Who do you think is driving it? Connor Garland, who historically has been a terrific 5-on-5 performer, or do you think it's Blueger and Joshua, who before this year have been fourth liners?
Yep, you're right. And the chat is jumping in with a lot of no quads. Here's the comments in succession. Hell no quads, no quads, no quads. Stirring the pot. Not a chance. Bad trade quads. So, okay. Let's say it's not Connor Garland. Maybe I was a little short-sighted there. Let's say it's not Connor Garland. Let's just say it's Nikita Zadorov. Oh, the point is you're just trying to make the money work, okay? And yes, Connor Garland is bringing more value to this team. So let's just say it's Nikita Zadorov. For whatever reason, it's Nikita Zadorov because you're just trying to make the money work, okay? Are you making that trade?
Still no, because I'll say this. The problem with the Canucks right now is even like they could finish really high in the West, and I still think that they're probably not going to finish first in the Pacific, given the way LA and Vegas are on paper. Canucks haven't, as JPat mentioned, they haven't played LA once. They've only played Vegas. They've only played Vegas once, so the schedule does get tougher in the second half. And as much as many times on the show we've spoken about how we're not worried about PDO and regression because the Canucks have a cushion and so many other parts of the team have been working well. At some point, there is still going to be some level of drop off there because Canucks are shooting above 11% at 5-on-5 right now. There is not a single NHL team since 2007 that's finished a season shooting 11% or higher. So there is some, like, even if it's a little bit, there is still some drop off coming. And if you're not going to win the Pacific, you're trading a lot for rental, and you might still end up playing Vegas or LA in round one of the playoffs. That's still a tough matchup. I would still think the Canucks are the underdog there. It's just, look, I wouldn't be opposed to giving up a first round pick for the right type of player somewhere between the next, 6 to 12 months. But it has to be the right age contract fit. And I don't think a rental's the right fit.
That's way too logical. You're probably bang on because you bring up a really good point that, look, I'm basing a lot of this off you got to go for first in the Pacific because it's such an advantage, but then it turns into a disaster if you don't get there, and there is a good chance that the Canucks don't get there. And here's a better one. Here's a better trade. Okay, ready? This one from Michael Lashano. Kuzmenko, Podkolzin, and the 2025 first round pick. Come on, Harm. For Elias Lindholm.
For me, that's not a bad proposal, but I just still don't want to give up a first for a rental. I can't. The downside risk of giving up a first for a rental and then playing LA or Vegas in round one, where you're probably the underdog, is the downside risk is too high there. And again, I'm not opposed to adding in that second tier, or again, a player like Henrique. I wouldn't mind. But man, I'd prefer to hold on to that first, because imagine then in the offseason, there's, let's say, the ideal like second line center available on the trade market where you're like, okay, we can bump Miller to the wing then. Or let's say there's another right shot, top four defenseman, a high end piece that you really, really like. Keeping in mind that the Canucks have several expiring defensemen on the current roster, like Cole, like Zadorov. So you have sort of needs that you might want to fill there. You might be thinking, oh, that's a great target for us as a medium-term fit. But if you then don't have a first-round pick in your trade arsenal, then you aren't able to make that move. So the point I'm trying to make is, yes, there's going to be a time and place where giving up a first makes sense, but you have to be very strategic and certain that it's the best return on your investment. And I don't think a rental is the best return on your investment this year.
Sticking with rentals, no, I'm not going to do too much more, but like I really like Adam Henrique. Like I think Adam Henrique is probably, like, he is in that second tier, obviously, probably in the twilight of his career, but like he's an upgrade on PDG. Like I think that's the conversation we've been having since the start of the year is you can't go into a playoff run with Bill DiGiuseppe as this team's second line winger, and all of a sudden he's right back there. So I don't know, like obviously you hope Höglander just kind of bounces back after, I don't know, like a couple bad games maybe, but you just, I don't know. I like the idea of going out and doing something this year. It's just, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm too into just straight fun hockey, because Elias Lindholm on this team would be super fun. Like Elias Lindholm on this team would be so much fun. And I think that's what I'm basing this off of. So you're probably right. You're probably bringing way more logic to the conversation than I am, but I don't know, man. I really like me some Elias Lindholm, and I think he'd be a really nice fit on this team. But maybe we'll leave that up to Santa Claus. So far, he has not delivered.
Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.